wanted to try to implement his theology, so for the same purpose, so he could implement a way to trick people out of money too. So I'm not trying to justify him over the other people, because to me it's all crookedness. But I'm just going to read you what happened, all right? By the 1560s, the French Protestant Huguenots were looking to the New World to establish and the Jesuits, by the way, is people that was out to push the Jesus ideal onto everyone. The non-believers who didn't want to have anything to do with the whole Jesus story was kind of forced into accepting it by these Jesuits. Okay, and coerced and whatever, you won't have no privileges and this and that, the whole same stuff that goes on now. You know, when somebody starts talking about and talking against that religion, the persecution they receive, that's all the Jesuits was about. They was the one that put into implementation this type of behavior and this type of action that would go along with the protesters or the non-receivers of this religion, and how they should be treated and everything, like what Deuteronomy tells you, okay? Now, by the 1560s, the French Protestants, Huguenots, were looking to the New World to establish a Protestant state in which they could practice a Protestant state in which they could practice their religion. They sent an expedition to the St. Johns River area of modern-day Florida and began a colony near what is now the city of St. Augustine. We got the St. John Bridge in Portland, Oregon. Those who live up here, you know what I'm talking about. It was not long before news of the French intrusion, that's what it was, reached the Spanish court in Madrid. To Philip, and the Spanish was intruding here. They own stolen land too. Also, let's not forget that, okay? We're talking about Christopher Columbus and Portugal too. They all work together, even though they don't want you to know that, to the Spanish crown. Okay. I messed up. It was not long before news of the French intrusion reached the Spanish court in Madrid. To Philip II of Spain, the French were not only trespassing on land, they got that bad. Somebody else trespassing again on land they trespassing on. Not only were the French trespassing on land assigned by the Holy Church, my ass, that land was assigned to the autochthonous beings that was here before the Holy Church came here and killed them and stole the land from them. The Holy Church to the Spanish crown, it wasn't assigned by the Holy Church. The Holy Church murdered and stole it, but let me move on. Church to the Spanish crown, but they were also heretics, violating the faith he was sworn to uphold. Now, you didn't uphold the faith. You murdered and stole the land yourself. His immediate reaction was to dispatch one of his most brutal commanders, Pedro Menendez, at the head of the fleet of 11 ships and 1,000 troops to uproot the French interlopers. Now, listen what they said. They dispatched 1,000 ships, 1,000 troops, 11 ships. I mean, each ship had about 100 people on it. Okay? 11 ships with 100 people each one. They never ever in history tell you about flocks of ships like that coming to the Americas from Spain. They always tell you Christopher Columbus and the few slave ships. This tells you right here that they were actually deploying Navy vessels with large numbers of men. So that's who came here and took this land and stole the land. Large numbers of men and ships. It wasn't no Nina, no Pinta, and no Santa Maria. I just thought I'd drop that because they're telling you right there that they had utilized that type of behavior right there when the Protestants decided they were going to have a problem with the Spaniards on land that the Spaniards had taken already. The Spaniards was like, bullshit, let's get some people down there, whoop their ass. Listen, let's go on. Reduced to 5 ships, the Spanish fleet landed on the Florida coast. That means that they lost 5 ships to the sea on the way here. Reduced to 5 ships, the Spanish fleet landed on the Florida coast on September the 4th, 1565. The French Protestants split their forces, leaving a small number at their fort, while the rest took to the sea to attack the Spanish. Gale winds blew the French ships out to sea in disarray, while Captain Menendez attacked the French fort, massacring its inhabitants. One by one, the French ships were wrecked along the Florida coast, and a group of 200 survivors trekked northward along the Martinez Inlet toward their fort. The account of what happened next comes from Father Francisco Lopez, the chaplain accompanying Mendez's expedition. We join his story as the Spanish are awakened in their camp by a group of local Indians. Throughout his narrative, Father Lopez refers to the French as Lutherans. Okay? Now, you can see where we get all these different names in these churches that us black people go to all the time. Protestants, Lutheran, Martin Luther, all these criminals. All these criminals. Look, Lutheran, Protestant. Do you hear these church names behind these men of these type of activities? They came here, murdered and stole the land, and then had incontested wars amongst themselves, and then they had the nerve to be the people to give you religion? And you want to call yourself a Baptist after Baptiste? French Baptiste, and Lutheran? All these names that you hear me saying right now, Protestant, is all names of European gangsters. That's all they are. Okay. On Friday, the 20th of September, and while the Captain General was asleep resting, after all the fatigues he had passed through, some Indians came to camp and made us understand by signs that on the coast toward the south there was a French vessel which had been wrecked. Immediately our general directed the admiral to arm a boat, take 50 men, and go down to the river, to the sea, to find out what was the matter. After waiting a short period, the Captain General ordered that those remaining in camp, including our narrator, join him in traveling down the river to the French ship. He said there should be in all 12 men to go in a boat, and 2 of them Indians, who would serve as guides. We set off immediately to descend to the river, to the sea, in search of the enemy, and to get there we had to march more than 2 leagues through plains covered with bush, often up to our knees, and water, our brave general always leading the march. When we had reached the sea, we went about 3 leagues along the coast in search of our comrades. It was about 10 o'clock at night when we met them, and there was a mutual rejoicing at having found each other. Not far off we saw the campfires of our enemies, and our general ordered 2 of our soldiers to go and reconnoiter them, concealing themselves in the bushes, and to observe well the ground where they were encamped, so as to know what could be done about what to be done, where the ground when they were encamped, so as to know what could be done. About 2 o'clock the men returned, saying that the enemy was on the other side of the river and that we could not get at them. Immediately the general ordered 2 soldiers and 4 sailors to return to where we had left our boats and bring them down the river, so that we might pass over to where the enemy was. Then he marched his troops to the river, and we arrived before daylight. We concealed ourselves in a hollow between the sand hills with the Indians who were with us, and when it came light, we saw a great many of the enemies go down to the river to get shellfish for food. Soon after, we saw a flag hoisted as a war signal. Our general, who was observing all that, enlightened by the Holy Spirit, said to us, I intend to change these clothes for those of a sailor, and take a Frenchman with me, one of those whom we had brought with us from Spain, and we will go and talk with these Frenchmen. Perhaps they are without supplies, and would be glad to surrender without fighting. He had scarcely finished speaking before he put his plan into execution. As soon as he had called to them, one of them swam towards and spoke to him, told him of their having been shipwrecked and the distress they were in, that they had not eaten bread for 8 or 10 days, and what is more, stated that all, or at least the greater part of them, were Lutherans. Immediately the general sent him back to his countrymen to say they must surrender and give up their arms, or he would put them all to death. A French gentleman who was a sergeant brought back the reply that they would surrender on condition their lives should be spared. After having parleyed a long time, our brave Captain General answered that he would make no promises, that they must surrender unconditionally and lay down their arms, because if he spared their lives, he wanted them to be grateful for it. And if they were put to death, that there should be no cause for complaint. Seeing that there was nothing else left for them to do, the sergeant returned to the camp, and soon after he brought all their arms and flags and gave them to the general, and surrendered unconditionally, fighting. They were all Lutheran. The Catholic general ordered them all put to death. But as I was a priest and had balls of mercy, I begged him to grant me the favor of sparing those whom we might find to be Christians. He granted it, and I made investigations and found 10 or 12 of the men, Roman Catholics, whom we brought back. All the others were executed because they were Lutherans and enemies of our holy Catholic faith. All took place on Saturday, St. Michael's Day, September the 29th, 1565. I, Francisco Lopez de Mendoza Grajales, chaplain of his lordship, certify that the foregoing is a statement of what actually happened. Now listen. Listen to what I'm saying to you. You have the Spanish people that they came into the Americas and murdered all the people that was in the Floridas when they got here and took over their land. Okay, that's in the Floridas. That's in here in Florida. So now the Spanish then set up shop here, and then the French, they gonna try to sneak attack, and then they get all shipwrecked and all messed up and everything. The Spaniards are like, okay, we know they was trying to creep in here and do something. Okay, we all know that. Now, Lutheran himself tells you the only reason he got saved is because he lied and said he was a Catholic by faith. So now the Spaniards then went all around the world, and anybody that didn't accept their Catholic faith, even white people, was killed. They just told you that. He said the reason why they got killed was because they were enemies of the Catholic faith. Want me to read it to you again? Here it goes. That they must surrender unconditionally and lay down their arms, because if he spared their lives, he wanted them to be grateful for it. And if they were put to death, that they should be no cause for complaint. Seeing that there was nothing else left for them to do, the sergeant returned to the camp, and soon after he brought all their arms and flags and gave them up to the general, and surrendered unconditionally. Finding they were all Lutherans, the captain general ordered them all put to death. But as I was a priest and had bowels of mercy, I begged him to grant me the favor of sparing those whom he might find to be Christians. He granted it, and made investigations, and found 10 or 12 of the men, Roman Catholics, whom we brought back. All the others were executed because they were Lutherans and enemies of our holy Catholic faith. All this took place on Saturday, St. Michael's Day, September 29, 1565. And then it says, I, Francisco Lopez de Mendoza Grajales, chaplain of his lordship, certified that the foregoing is a statement of what actually happened. He proud as hell to say that we murdered those men because they were not Catholics. Proud. See, this religion thing has been a reason that so much chaotic interruptions, displacement, dissension, dismemberment, distrust, disalignment, all this stuff to the human family is based on the unique technique utilized in the perpetuation of the racist theologian propaganda of religious dogma and religious, just all those names that you just heard. Roman Catholics, okay, the Protestants, the Lutherans, all of them, okay. Down here, is all the names of the church centers that is dichotomizing the black people on this earth. You have Christianity, that's in there too. He said, you can see it right there. He said, we might find them to be Christians. Now, Christianity is where they all belong at, because the Jesus whole story is all in line with the Roman Catholics. So Roman Catholics and Christians are the same time. But then people could say, I'm a Christian, but I'm Baptist. I'm a Baptist Christian, or I'm a Lutheran Christian, because all of them, Lutheran, Baptist, Protestant, all of them uses Jesus Christ. So they're all the same thing, but they even separated themselves just by having different names of the founder. There is no pattern of uniqueness, even though it's supposed to be the same worship. Now, how stupid would it be for all the people of Egypt, the people in the island of Philae, that's the temple of Set, arguing with the people in the city of Heliopolis, the temple of Ra, because they in different locations or have different names? How foolish would that be? That's the same foolishness right there. And then that foolishness caused wars, intestine wars in Europe that even left Europe and came here to the Americas. Now I'm showing you some foolishness. That's all I'm doing. And I'm through with Europe. Let me turn this off. That's enough of Europe. Alright. Hotel. Just thought I'd share this with you. I think this is pretty cool. I've been just going through a few things, showing a little something here and there. Let's see how you like this. This is really, really nice. I know it's weird. Some of you guys couldn't hang it out. Some of you could, I know. It's a memorial to the victims of the Salem witch hunt. I thought we'd go ahead and give them a shout out. It's only 5 minutes. I like the music.